Good, thanks.
Good. Missy Parker Miller is a social worker with Bethany Christian Services, the largest private adoption agency in the country. She's a proud graduate of Spring Arbor University and the Detroit Bible Institute. She's a Christian who loves the Lord and the mother of 7 children, 3 birth, 3 adopted, and 1 stepson. She's also the grandmother of 8 beautiful grandchildren. It's no surprise that Missy was chosen as Right to Life Lifespan's Mother of the Year in 2006.
All right.
We also have Dawn Polis. She's been married to Joseph Polis almost 10 years. They're the parents of 3 beautiful children. Evelyn is 4.5, and twins Thomas and Dominic are 1-year-old. Dawn has a business management degree from Wayne State University, and she owns and operates 2 State Farm insurance offices. She enjoys spending time with her family, reading, and getting enough sleep these days. Hi, ladies.
Hello.
So before I get into letting you each tell your beautiful testimonies and stories, we're going to just set this up a little bit. We know that Chaldeans shy away from adoption for different reasons. Dawn, can you explain to us some of these reasons as our Chaldean?
You know, in preparation for today, I polled a few Chaldean ladies that I know and just kind of talked to them about why, you know, that might be. And I got a variety of answers, of course, but from what it, you know, boils down to is, I think it's just a very new concept to us. So, you know, when we were back home, we got married pretty young, and maybe infertility was less of an issue than it is here in America, where we're getting our degrees, getting married a little later, maybe experiencing some of that now. And you know, I just think it's again new. You know, it's just not something that we talked about all the time back then, and something that. So now I want to say this. You know, a couple of years ago, I did a little talk with the Chaldean moms, the Mom to Mom group, and once I did that and talked about my testimony, I've gotten probably in the past 2 years, maybe 10 women who've reached out to say, okay, you know, where do I begin? What do I do? So I think we are becoming more open to it. It just wasn't very common up until maybe more recently.
Okay, what do you think about the other end of things? If there is a Chaldean young woman who becomes pregnant and she's not married, or you know, there are some other circumstances that make her afraid to have carry that pregnancy to term, she also would hesitate more than, you know, maybe.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
Adoption.
Yeah, that is definitely a cultural thing. That is, you know, we talked about this too last time. It's hard because, you know, in our society, we're, you know, it's probably still, you know, very old school, but, you know, we want to be virgins till we get married. So you're pregnant. It's kind of saying, it's showing your sins out there, you know, more than, you know, if I just am a smoker or something, right? So it's hard on the family, but I really think, if we, you know, I think if the woman, you know, if she would let the pregnancy follow through, she would find that there's more love and support than she gave us credit for. I don't know if we're there yet as a society, as a Chaldean community, but I wish we were. There are so many loving families that could help, but I think there's, I've always said, you know, I would take that young girl into my home if she was kicked out. But I think, again, there might be a harsh initial reaction, but I think that we are a loving people and that they would find, right? I think they would find comfort and love where maybe they didn't expect to.
Definitely. I agree with you 100% that the Chaldean community is just such a loving, family-oriented community. And yes. I really, you know, when I think about you adopting children, I just think what is the thing that these children need most, and it's a family. What better, type of family could there be
Yes.
than a Chaldean family? Because
Yeah.
for Chaldeans, everyone's family, and there's just so
Yeah.
much love that overflows onto everyone.
Oh God, my kids are so spoiled with love.
So Missy, we talked a little bit about this also. Is it your experience too that not very many Chaldean people consider adoption?
Yeah, that's very true. As you said, I work with Bethany Christian Services, and we have one of our programs is called Domestic Infant Adoption. And we have had a few Chaldean women over the years come forward. And as Dawn just shared, is usually kind of a crisis pregnancy situation. The woman is very scared to actually have the baby and be able to take the baby home, um, especially if it was not conceived with a Chaldean man. And there are a lot of cultural issues and things that she's concerned about. So she'll meet with one of our pregnancy counselors and then a domestic infant adoption worker to possibly see if making an adoption plan would be a good plan for her. And so I've been in Bethany over about 13 years. And so during that time, we've had maybe a handful of Chaldean women who have come seeking our services. And so it had worked out. The ones that I know about, it has worked out well for them, because the way our program works is the birth mom comes in, and if she chooses to make an adoption plan, she chooses the family that she would like to adopt her child. And then they set up a meeting, they meet and they see, if she feels this would be a good fit. And if that is the case, then they move forward making the adoption plans. And most of our adoptions are open. And I don't remember if with the Chaldean women they kept it open. You can choose an open adoption, which means that you keep in touch with the birth mom. The adoptive family continues to keep in touch with the birth mom over the years and can even see her child like once a year at the birthday party or something like that. You can choose a semi-open adoption, which is more just written communication, maybe sharing pictures, that kind of thing. Or you can have a straight closed adoption where there's no communication between the adoptive family and the birth mom. So I don't know which option that our Chaldean moms chose. I would kind of believe they probably chose the closed adoption just for everything to just be taken care of. And she wouldn't have to really worry about if she didn't really want the community to know about the pregnancy or what have you, because the couple that I know about, they really wanted to keep the pregnancy hush hush.
Mhm.
So that has been my experience. But again, it hasn't been a whole lot. And like Don said, we're really, I think this is such a wonderful venue just to share with the Chaldean community that there is an openness now in regards to, let's check into the possibility of adoption. And like I said, with our domestic infant program specifically, you can come in, everything is very confidential, and you choose the family. And so that mom can be very comfortable, with her choice and all of that. So I'm very happy that we're doing this so the information can get out. And if some women at least want to check into it, I think they'll be more confident now to just, begin those steps, just checking some things out.
Yeah, and Missy, you have just an incredible testimony. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, your family, and how many children that you have fostered and adopted, and just how your whole family works?
Okay. Let's see. As it said in my bio, I'm the mom of 7 wonderful children. My husband and I were very involved in Right to Life, and we had 3 birth children. but we would often hear when we would be at Right to Life rallies and things like this, where you all are telling us to not abort our babies, but what are you doing for the kids that are here? And we thought that was a really good point. You know, you need to put into action what you're really saying you believe. And so our three birth children, they were 7 years old, 4 years old, and 1 year old when we started fostering. And we really started as a result of being at some of those pro-life rallies. And then my daughters, we actually watched a program on foster care. And in watching that program, the kids, they were crying, you know, at the end of the program, and they were saying, Mom, why can't we have a loving home? Why can't we help some of the children? And so that touched my husband and I, our hearts. Our hearts were broken, and we're saying, okay. And we really talked to the children about what it would look like to become a foster family, how it would impact our family. That, okay, are you all sure you want to like share your parents, you know, you want to share your toys, you want to share time, all of that. And the kids said, yeah, Mom, we'll do that. And so my husband and I checked into what it would be to become a foster parent. You have to become licensed to become a foster parent. And so we began that process and we became licensed. And so we fostered over 35 children over the 10 years that we were fostering. And we ended up adopting 3 of our foster children. And unfortunately, the goal of foster care really is to reunite the children with the birth parents. But because of the drug epidemics that have gone on in our society, at the time I was fostering, it was the crack cocaine epidemic. Now there's the opioid epidemic. And so a lot of birth parents who are struggling with substance abuse issues, and it's not safe for the children to stay with the birth parents, the children come into foster care. And it's very difficult for a parent who's been struggling with substance issues for several years to be able to overcome and actually get their lives in order within a year or 2 years, which is the time limit that pretty much is given to birth parents to be able to show progress, you know, that they're able to get their children back and provide a safe home for the children. So as a result, and we know stability is so important for children. Years ago, they would just let kids grow up in the foster care system, kind of going from home to home, and they realized that was not good. Children need stability, children need permanence. And so now the courts pretty much will give a family probably about 2 years is about the average. And if the judge does not see progress being made within those 2 years, then he will say we need to submit the petition to terminate parental rights. And so if that happens, the birth parent's parental rights are terminated. And then as a foster parent, you get the first option to adopt. And so that's what happened with us. Our first set of foster children, we had a brother and sister. They were 3 and 1 when we got them, and parental rights were terminated, and voila. You know? So, and then going on, of course, as we took in other children, similar story. They would be with our family for 2 years, 3 years. Rights were terminated, and then we were asked to adopt. At that point, the children are part of your family. You love them. They, you know, and so it wasn't even a question, you know, yes. And so, because they were already part of our family. And so my birth children, as I said, we adopted 3 of our foster children. And as God would have it, he took my husband home to glory after 25 years of marriage. And the children we adopted were a 9, 7, and 5. And so I ended up being a single mom for a while. And that was a very interesting challenge. A lot of, you know, it was an interesting time in my life and in the lives of the children. But God brought us through, and he also allowed me to meet a wonderful man, Curtis Miller, and we married in 2013. And he had a son. And so I also now have a wonderful stepson. And part of my story, and you tell me if I'm talking too much, Tina. The latter part of my story is my husband's son was living with his mom and her boyfriend in the UP. And we didn't realize it at the time. We thought his son was, of course, safe with mom, but mom had cut off communication with dad. But he was being abused all that time by mom and her boyfriend. And when Child Protective Services finally was called into the situation, and they contacted my husband and shared with him what was going on. His son had then been put in foster care up in Escanaba, and we went up there. And so my husband and his son, who had been estranged for a few years, were reunited. And so he became a part of our family too. And it's just been really wonderful. What I tell families, because a lot of families are scared of fostering or adopting children because of the background, because of the trauma these children have experienced. But what I know is not only with my younger children that we adopted, because the 3 children that we did adopt were all pretty much newborns. We picked them up from the hospitals. Many of them were abandoned, again, because of the substance use of their parents. The children, the babies, were just abandoned in the hospitals. So we adopted them as infants. But my husband's son was 15, and he had been abused from the time that he was 10 until he was 15. So for 5 years, he suffered severe abuse. And so to bring him into our home was a challenge. But what we found out was these children are so resilient. And when they're placed in a loving, nurturing, caring environment, those children can heal. And that's what we saw with my stepson. And he has such a beautiful heart. Of course, the children, that most of them will have to have therapy to help them work through the various traumas that they've gone through. But he has made so much progress, and he's doing very well. And so I just want to encourage families that if you ever think about fostering or adoption, please look into it, because there's so many children who are hurting, and they just need a loving, nurturing family. And Bethany Christian Services is right there to help support you, providing resources that you need, the training that you need to help you help these children to heal. So it is an awesome ministry, and our family has been truly blessed, because you think you're going to be a blessing to the children, which is true. That's wonderful. But you don't count on how much the children are going to be a tremendous blessing to you. And that's what our children have been for us. So we're very, very thankful that the Lord opened that door for us to be able to increase our family, because I did want a large family. But my last pregnancy was very, very difficult. And so the Lord opened that door for us to foster and adopt. And I'm so thankful he did, because it opens up a whole new world of joy and blessings and possibilities that otherwise you would miss out on.
Mhm. So how many in your family now? You're a grandmother?
Yes. All of my children are adults now. Hallelujah. Every step is another journey, but they're all adults now, and 4 of them are married. Out of the 7, 4 are married. And so I have 8 grandchildren now. And it's another level of love, because you really think you can't love any more than you love like your spouse and your children. But when you have grandchildren, it's just another level of love, and it's such a blessing. So, and I'm visiting right now with my youngest daughter. Her husband's in the service, and so he's at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And so, spur of the moment, my girlfriend was driving to North Carolina to visit her family, and she was driving by herself. And so I'm like, I could go see my daughter. And so we all jumped in her car and we came to North Carolina for the week. So that has been wonderful.
Wow. Wow, what a story. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing.
So you're more than welcome. I hope it encouraged somebody.
I hope so. Okay, Dawn, let's hear your story.
Absolutely. My story is unique in that when I was younger, 21 years old, my family and I discovered that I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. So I always say this, I didn't die. I actually, didn't even need chemotherapy, but I did need to have my ovaries removed because of it, or I wouldn't have survived. And, you know, I ended up finding out it had been growing for 2 years. So no symptoms, no signs. And it was just, finally when the symptoms came, it was just at that point where it was too late, where I could conceive on my own, but early enough where I didn't have to go through a whole trial, which is amazing. And I know God has a purpose for that. So fast forward, a decade later, I meet my husband, who is completely open to adoption, understood my situation, was happy. He's one of 10 kids. He's from a very large family as well. So he, assured me it's fine if we never had children, but he would be happy to adopt and give a home to kids who don't have a home. And that's when we decided, even before we got married, that would be our path. So once we got married, we waited a few years. We filled out the application at Bethany Christian Services, where Missy works. And we did go the domestic infant adoption route. We didn't want to go to Russia or, out of the country. We wanted somebody within the US, and all of our kids were born very close by, within an hour or so of our home. And we, our first daughter was born the January 1st, New Year's Day of 2016. I think we applied like 2013, the end of 2013. So she came just 2 years later. And then our sons came 3.5 years after that, twin boys, which I always laugh. If I requested twins, I probably wouldn't get twins. So we do have open adoptions. Thomas and Dominic's birth mom and I text a lot. I'll send her pictures. I invited her to their baptism. She was very touched by that. She is very much she would have loved to parent them, but she physically is unable. And Evelyn's birth mom is still not ready to. We're open, we're ready for her. And when she's ready, I would love for her to meet her and just get to know her, just to be in our lives. Like Missy said, a once a year picnic, or, just something so Evelyn knows how, loved she is from both ends here. So yeah, that's where we are today. We have three beautiful kids.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So I know that in the Chaldean community, it's important that you are able to have children. When Chaldeans are looking to get married, I think that's a big deal. Am I right?
I'll be honest, I was rejected by a few Chaldean men who missed out on a wonderful wife. So I was honest, and they were scared and didn't want to move forward with the relationship, and God sent me the right guy.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. But, I wanted to point this out too, or just say this, I think for us, again, I was a unique situation. My family had years and years to process that either I wasn't going to have kids at all, or I would adopt, or, we would, that was probably going to be my path. So once I adopted, it was like very natural for them to accept my kids, as if I gave birth to my kids. Instant. My mom, my dad, it doesn't matter, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters, everybody has accepted my children. So that feels really good. It's, it's a blessing. And again, they're very loved. So they live a very good life because of adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
So why should Chaldean women be encouraged to give birth to the child, even if they can't provide the family or health care? You were talking to me personally and explaining that your sons need some medical care, which is probably costly.
Yeah.
Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
My sons were born with, genetic condition that has caused us quite a few surgeries and doctor's visits, and they're amazing and they're bouncing back. But if you are going to adopt, you're going to have some thick skin that this could happen. And I will say, Evelyn, when, she's 4.5 now, not a single surgery, very few doctor's appointments in 4.5 years. So my thought on that is God prepared me how to be a mom. And then he gave me this challenge to take these two beautiful boys and, fix them, I guess, get them healed, get them the care that they need and the love that they need, because nobody's going to fight for them like I do. So yeah, I've taken them to every specialist they needed to see, and we're healing them, and we have a plan for everything we're supposed to do. But thankfully, and I'll say this, if money's a concern, the state of Michigan, they have a time frame where you can get Medicaid for them. I've gotten assistance for them. So that's been amazing, because if we had to put them on my husband's insurance through work immediately, we'd be paying copay after I would have paid thousands by now. So the assistance has helped us tremendously, and especially in this past year. So why should a woman, follow through with the pregnancy? It's the right thing to do, right? We're Catholics. We are Chaldean Catholics. That's, the right thing to do. I know I'm not judging at all. Everybody has their situation, but I really feel like there are so many other solutions that we could find people to help. I just know it. I know I'm one of those people. I know people who would just take in and help, and financially help. We can throw something out there and we'll find 10 people to help donate a crib or food, formula. We're, again, a giving, loving community. I think following through with that pregnancy, like Missy said, will lead to blessings you probably didn't even expect. If you're brave enough to follow through, I think it all will work out, So,
I know.
Yeah.
So there's a pregnancy center in Southfield, and they reached out to Right to Life of Michigan because they know we have a multicultural outreach department and we work with the Chaldean community, and they were seeing a lot of Chaldeans, and they didn't know how to deal with, the different reasons why these sometimes couples, sometimes just a young woman, are considering abortion. They told us that there were, couples that they were going to get married, but they just weren't yet, and were pregnant already. And so we're afraid, because of how it would look, because of the shame and so forth. Mm-hmm. But there was a young woman there, a very young woman, and she is a single mother. She went through with her pregnancy.
God bless her.
That child, and she described just what you just described. It was difficult. She was kicked out. She stuck to her plan. She did everything she could. And when that child was born, it just changed everything. It just melted everyone's hearts.
It makes everything right. The second my daughter was put in my arms, I, forgot all the pain I had ever in my life, ever in the past, Yeah, no, I had just had treatment right before she was born, for breast cancer, actually. And I said, gosh, once she was put in my arms, I forgot about all of it. Everything I had to do to get here was worth it.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yeah, no, she's brought, even my husband and I closer, like we were already very close, like we're so in love with her. And again, it is pure joy. That's what I call my daughter, and my sons are pure joy too. So, yeah, there's a reason for them to be here. I hope one of my sons is going to be a pope one day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Missy, I'm wondering myself, how expensive is it to adopt?
Through domestic infant adoption, it is costly. You have to attend an orientation first, and they will give you a packet with different ways that help can come in regards to the cost, because you can get tax credit. There are grants that you can receive. A lot of our families, their churches, contribute towards the adoption fees and stuff like that. But it is costly. At this point, I think it's somewhere around $29,000. And that's a lot of money for most people. But like I said, there's a lot of help. And so our families who come, and this is the route that they choose to go, they take advantage of all of the, the different ways of supplementing, getting that money together. So that's domestic infant adoption. There is another way, and that's the way my husband and I ended up adopting, which is through foster care. And if you're willing to foster a child, and again, that is there's no guarantee when you foster that you'll be able to adopt that particular child. I can say this, that if you foster for any period of time, more than likely you're going to be able to adopt the child if you want to, because it's over 50% of the children who come into foster care, the parents' parental rights are terminated, and you as the foster parent have the first option to adopt. And I actually think it's higher than 50%, but that's the statistic they tell us to say. So okay, but I think it's closer to like 65%. But if you choose to foster a child and that child is in your home, as I said, for about a year to 2 years, and the parents are not making any progress, and the judge will say it's time to petition to terminate parental rights. If that's done, foster parents have the first option to adopt, and it doesn't cost anything to adopt out of foster care. So all of the children that we adopted, it didn't cost us anything to adopt. The children, while they're in foster care, have Medicaid, so that covers their medical and dental expenses. And also, as a foster parent, because we don't want it to be a financial burden on a family to help a child, you also get a monthly stipend for the child. So it's $17.24 a day to start, which comes out to about $500 a month per child. And if your child has any medical challenges or anything like that, it goes up, daily. So our youngest son that we adopted, he was born premature. He only weighed a pound at birth. And so he ended up having his retina detached in his right eye. And so he had to have a lot of eye surgeries and things like that. So our stipend was more for him because of the medical challenges that he had. But also, once you adopt, so you continue to receive that monthly stipend after you adopt a child until that child is 18. And so that was a blessing as well. And if you need any other help, there's medical subsidy that you can get. So if something isn't covered through your medical insurance or the Medicaid, there's medical subsidy that is also available to the family. So the state, I think, does a good job in trying to provide the resources that's needed for these children to be embraced by families and not let, finances be an issue. So for families who want to go the domestic infant route, that's a wonderful way, but it is quite expensive. And as I shared already, you're able to select the family that you want to adopt your child. Foster care is a little trickier, but because I'm a Christian and I just believe the Lord guides everything, that the Lord placed the children in our home that he wanted to be there. And so even though there was no guarantee, the children that we were supposed to adopt, we adopted. And I just think the Lord does that for anybody who loves him. And there's such a tremendous need, especially in the Metro Detroit area, Oakland, Wayne, Macomb counties. There are over 13,000 children in foster care right now in Michigan. And over half of those kids, like 7,000 of those children, are from Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County. So it's right in our area. So there's a tremendous need for families who will be willing to open their home and their hearts to a child who is in need. And all these children want our families. And there are many children right now. There's a website called MARE, the Michigan Adoption Resource Exchange. There are over 300 children on that website who their parents' parental rights have been terminated already, and they're waiting just for an adoptive family. And so, again, if the Lord is speaking to your heart in regards to this, there are children ready right now who would love a family.
Very good. Missy, you mentioned the children that you fostered who were able to go back with their birth parents.
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep in touch with them? Was that, I'm sure that that was painful.
You know, to be honest, very few of the foster children went back to their parents. Most of them would go to a relative. And so because we didn't really have the relationship, I haven't been able to keep in touch with them. There are other of our children who did go somewhere else, like they were adopted by another family and something that we keep in touch with them. And so that has been a blessing. And what I share with my families all the time is that if you view foster care as a ministry, so you're looking at it that this is something God has called me to do to help a child in the season that they're in. It can make all the difference. So even if you don't get to adopt that child, but that child is in your home a year, year and a half, 2 years, you're able to make such a tremendous impact in that child's life. And for many of our children, their lives are changed forever because they're coming to know God. For many of them, they've never been to church before or anything. So to be with a family that, you know, loves God and they go to church and they're in youth group and all of this, it's been wonderful for them. And so you can continue the question that you asked about continuing to keep in touch with those children. And so there are some of our foster children that we still keep in touch with. There, especially it's one set of brother and a sister that we're very close to, and they still call me mom. And you know, I'm grandma to their kids. So it's actually even more than my 8 that I'm nana to.
Wow.
But that is open. So I tell people, don't be scared, because I hear a lot, you know, I'll get attached and it would just break my heart to have to let the children go. And I understand that it was very difficult, but again, the Lord opens different doors so for many of them, you will be able to stay in contact with them. Those that you're not able to keep in touch with, if they do go to a relative or back home, that's okay. You know, you're praying for them and praying that everything is still going well with them. But you know that you did what God called you to do and the difference that you've made in that child's life. And we have foster kids that come back and just to our agency, older kids when they're in their teens or their early 20s, and they share how much it meant to them to be in a home. And maybe they were just there for like a year and a half, but the impact that family had on them. So I know that it makes a difference. And so I encourage families to don't let the fact that this child might have to leave your home and you don't actually get to adopt them, don't let that be the reason that you don't foster, because it can still be such a wonderful thing either way. If you foster for any amount of time, you will be able to adopt some children. That's a fact.
Don, Missy mentioned that God plays a part in this.
Of course.
He gives the call. Did he call you to adoption? Can you remember, the moment when you felt that call?
You know, I was listening to the radio and Bethany Christian Services had an ad. And I said to my husband, let's just go see. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how it started. It was that easy. It wasn't even like I researched a ton of agencies. It was like, it was in our heart. And we knew we would, and we didn't know probably how to start. And that commercial came on and I called. They had an availability for that orientation that Missy talks about. We went to the orientation and we filled out the application. So we knew that was the right fit. They were the right fit for us. We knew from day one. So, yeah.
And were you able to choose your children? You mentioned a little bit about that. Do you feel like God placed those particular children in your family?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many things that I could tell you that I was like, wow, God meant for them to be my kids, so many things. The way it works, and she was mentioning it, Joe and I had to put a book together of just some pictures that told our story. And once we were an approved family, our adoption worker would show birth moms our book, like, hey, here's a couple waiting. We would say, hey, we want a newborn, we'll take up to 12 months old. We would give our parameters, and then once a birth mom came to them with those parameters, our book got shown, and it was always up to the birth mom to choose. But if we felt like we weren't ready for that particular child, we could say no. So we had some children that were born to a mom that was addicted to heroin, and we felt like we weren't ready for a baby addicted to drugs. And if I wanted the birth mom in our lives, I didn't know how I would feel with somebody addicted to drugs. We're just not used to that. So we did decline a few kids over probably the 2 years we waited for Evelyn. We probably said no to 3 kids, and it's hard. It's like, I could be a mom right now. The first call came 3 weeks after we were approved. I was like, here it is, they're calling. But my husband's an engineer and he thinks things through. And like Missy said, it's $29,000. And we said, here's the parameters we gave. We will wait for another child. And then 2 years goes by and you say, have I waited too long? And then Evelyn came and she was absolutely perfect. And I crack up because Joe and I were born on the first of the month, August 1st, September 1st. She's a January 1st baby. And I'm like, oh, see, it was meant to be. And then she's left-handed like me. And I feel like her personality is so much like mine. So Thomas and Dominic were born on the 1st of July, again, the 1st. So we just over and over feel like they were meant to be ours. We actually were scheduled to meet their birth mother, Thomas and Dominic's, on July 1st. That was her final step. She had already picked us. We found out 4 days before that she chose us. She said, I just want to meet them for lunch. And I said, I hope she has the baby on the 1st, because then we'd all be born on the 1st. And before we even made it to the lunch, she had already given birth to them. So they came. So God, he called us to it. I felt like he was speaking to me directly that day. I heard it on the radio. And it's been there. I say this, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I feel like even my career has gotten better. Even like other aspects of my life are better because of my beautiful children that God gave me, that I appreciate so much. I know some people are, sick of the quarantine and ready to get back to normal. I've enjoyed this extra time with them. Before this, we kind of were rushing to doctor's appointments. We have just gotten to sit and love our kids, and I've watched them just blossom. And I feel like that's just another blessing right now.
Very good. Well, adoption is such an awesome thing, and it's great. Thank you for coming on today, ladies, and helping us to illustrate that. I think everyone kind of knows in their heart how wonderful it is, but there are fears and things that hold people back. So thank you for encouraging others. We really appreciate it. Is there anything that you wanted to say, you didn't feel you got the chance?
I do want to say, I miss saying this, Tina, I'm sorry. Even though the cost for domestic infant adoption is expensive, we did get a lot of help. We ended up only paying a few thousand. Once you file your taxes, I know you have to pay the money up front. Once you file your taxes, there's almost a $14,000 credit that you get back. And then my job had a program where they gave us $5,000 back, and Joe's program at work gave him $5,000 back. So we only ended up paying a few thousand. It's not this huge bear at the end of it all. So it was worth every penny, of course. And I hope more of our people, more of our Chaldean community will look into adoption, because again, I feel like it's blessed me and my family in so many ways.
Okay. I'm so glad that Dawn really clarified that about the finances, because you hear that figure and it's like people just cringe and they just say, oh, no way we can do that. But there are so many the tax credits. A lot of jobs, have adoption funds. Churches have adoption funds. And so when people find out that's what you want to do, that they really come forward, and it, so it cuts that cost way, way down.
God makes a way for you.
He really does. It's just a
Yes.
matter of you just stepping forward and saying, Lord, I believe this is what you would have us to do, and we're going to do it. And I just wanted to say, I don't want families to be afraid to at least inquire about it. If it's a thought on your heart, and my view is that if it's a thought on your heart, the Lord is pricking you, and to follow through on that. And like Dawn said, just check it out, and then you'll be amazed. You can go to both orientations. You can go to the domestic infant adoption orientation, because orientations are free. They don't cost anything. You go to that orientation, and then if you want to check out the foster care and foster care adoption orientation, you can do that, and then make a decision on if you think one of these programs would be best for your family. But we have so many children who are in need of families, and so many moms who are in crisis pregnancies who are looking for families that will be willing to adopt their children. The need is there. And so we just need families to be willing to just, step out and just check into it. And I believe once you do that, the Lord will confirm to you if this indeed is the route that he would have you to go.
Well, thank you both so much for saying yes to the Lord when he called you, and for sharing your stories with us today. We really very much appreciate it.
Such a pleasure. Thank you, Tina.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. I want to add that next Tuesday, we will be talking with the men, the pro-life men in the Chaldean community. We have Joey Toma, Vincent Kashat, and Eddie Dickow, and they're going to explain